All right, today we are going to be talking about making a strawberry cheesecake cake. Now, this is going to be your new favorite cake. This is such a delicious, yummy cake. It has 2 layers of the most perfect white, fluffy, moist cake that you will ever have. And then the middle layer is actually a cheesecake. So you've got a cheesecake and a cake, and it's layered in between with sliced strawberries and a whipped cream frosting. So I'm going to show you today how to make this cake, and it is one of the best cakes you're ever going to have. Now, the first thing you want to do is make your cheesecake. Your cheesecake is actually going to need to be made in advance, at least 24 hours, so that it can freeze solid. And the reason for that is you can't move a cheesecake that is room temperature. So it needs to be solid as you're frosting the cake. And of course, that will thaw to room temperature before you enjoy eating it. Cheesecake is so easy to make. You really practically makes itself. You're just creaming the cheese and the eggs and the sugar. So you're gonna cream your 2 bricks of cream cheese, and you're gonna add the sugar until it's all nice and creamy and it's smooth. Then you're gonna add the eggs and the vanilla, and you're gonna beat it again just until it's nice and smooth. And then you can see right here, it just looks so good. It's a little bit yellow. And then you're gonna add some flour and some whipped cream just to give it a little bit more structure. It's just gonna help it raise and just fill all the way out. You're gonna beat that in one more time, and then you are good to go. Now, when you pour it into your springform pan, of course, you're not gonna have a crust because you're putting this in the middle of a cake. So you're gonna line the bottom of your springform pan with a layer of parchment paper. You do not need to grease it. Pour the cheesecake batter right on top, smooth it out, and you're gonna put it in the oven at Fahrenheit 350, and you are going to cook it for about 45 minutes until it is nice and solid all the way through when you tap it and you want it to jiggle all together. Then you're gonna take it out, you're gonna let it cool all the way, remove the springform pan from the outer rim, and then you're just gonna put it on the bottom pan layer, and you're gonna stick it directly in the freezer. You don't have to cover it or do anything with it. You're just gonna put it right in. After 24 hours, you can take it out, you can remove the bottom pan, and then you're gonna wrap it up tight with saran wrap, and that is to ensure that it doesn't get any freezer bite. You can leave it in your freezer for 2 weeks up to almost a month, as long as it's wrapped up tight, and then use it for your cake later. I personally like to make it pretty soon in advance, just because if I'm gonna have cheesecake in my freezer, it's gonna get eaten. All right, so the next thing you wanna do is make your cake. Now again, this can be made in advance too, but this is such a white, fluffy, moist cake that it is best made that morning, the morning or the night before, whenever you're gonna use it. And if I make it the night before, instead of handling it so much, I like to just put it on a plate or have it flat on the counter, and then I just put a dome over it, and that just keeps it nice and airtight, and you don't have to worry about it. But to make this amazing white cake, you are going to cream the oil, the butter, and the sugar all together until it looks nice and thick and it's all emulsified. It's all one unit, but it'll still be a little bit grainy. And then after that, you are going to add your egg whites. Of course, this is a white cake, so we don't want any yolks in there. And you're gonna beat those in, and then you're gonna add your vanilla and your flour. So you can put the egg whites in with the vanilla and then add 1 cup of flour, and you can see what's happened here is this has added a lot of structure. You can see a lot of air in this, and then you're gonna start alternating with the yogurt. So you just wanna add 1/2 cup of flour to start, then you wanna add 1/2 cup of yogurt, and this just needs to be a plain yogurt. You can do vanilla if you want, but don't substitute sour cream. It's not the same for this cake. So start with 1/2 cup of flour, 1/2 cup of yogurt, then add 1 cup of flour, another 1/2 cup of yogurt, and then you're gonna add your last 1/2 cup of flour, and you're gonna beat that in. And you just wanna beat it until it's just barely mixed in. You do not want to overbeat this. And you can see what it looks like after the yogurt and all the flour is mixed in right here. It's got just you can tell it's got lots of air in it, and it's just a great texture. You're gonna finish it off by adding your milk and your vinegar. This is not buttermilk, so you want your milk and your vinegar to be added separately. You don't want them to react before they go into the cake. And then you can see the end result is just a great, creamy, really nice batter. And then you're gonna whip up your egg whites. You can see here in another bowl, so this is 2 more egg whites in stiff peaks, and then just make sure that you just fold those in very gently. Even if you don't get all of them mixed in, that's okay. And you can see that just looks like the perfect cake batter, because this is the perfect cake, and I promise you once again, you are going to love it. It's so amazing. At this point, you're ready to get it in the oven. So you have 2 9-inch cake pans. You will actually have a little bit of extra batter because you don't want to overfill these. So you can bake that in a separate little container, and it's so heavenly to munch on while you're preparing your cake, and you won't feel tempted to stick your fingers in it. So line these with parchment paper as well. Grease underneath the parchment paper and on top, and of course around the edges. Get these in the oven at Fahrenheit 350 and bake these for about 25 minutes. They're going to be golden brown, and they're going to spring back to the touch, and that will be the perfect cooking time. Pull them out, loosen outside the edges with a knife, and then cool them, flip them upside down and cool them on a rack. Make sure you don't start assembling this cake until they are completely cooled. Like I said, you can do it either the night before, or you can do it that morning and assemble it that evening. And here is how we put together this cake. Now, don't take your cheesecake out of the freezer yet. You don't want to take it out until you are ready to assemble it. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to slice your strawberries. What I like to do is cut off the green stem and then put it face down on the counter where the green stem would be. I cut it in half right down the center, and then I have 2 halves, and I'm going to cut each of those in half. So you've got nice thick layers of strawberries. You'll see in a minute how we're going to put those on the cake. Your whipped cream frosting is so simple. It's just powdered sugar, whipping cream that hasn't been whipped, it's just still liquid, a little scant amount of vanilla, and that is it. Beat that all together, and then make sure your strawberries are sliced, and you'll be ready to go. So you take your bottom layer, and this is your 1 layer of white, amazing fluffy cake, and you're gonna spread a layer of whipped cream frosting on it. And look at that, it just looks so amazing because it tastes so great. And then you're gonna fan the strawberries out around the edges and make it look like a flower petal. And you do want those to peek out over the edges. This is gonna be a naked cake, and you wanna be able to see those strawberries through each layer. So let them hang off the sides a little bit, put a strawberry next to each other all the way around, and then start to move inwards and alternate. You can say we alternated the strawberries all the way till you get to the middle. And then you're gonna pull the cheesecake out of the freezer at this point, unwrap it of course, and put that in the middle. And then you're gonna again layer that with your whipped cream frosting, and again layer it with the strawberries the same exact way. And then when that layer's done, you're gonna put your last white layer of fluffy cake on top. And again, you can see the side view of this. The strawberries are peeking out. You can see a little bit of frosting, and then you're gonna put that little last white cake on there, and then you're gonna top it again with the amazing whipped cream frosting that tastes so good. This tastes just like a strawberries and cream cake. And then you're gonna finish it off with the last bit of frosting and the last strawberry, and you can add a whole strawberry right there in the center on the top. And if you want to, you can top it with some apricot jam to let it shine a little bit, or you could just sprinkle some sugar over the top of it to start leaking the juices of the strawberries out. They're gonna start running down the sides of the cake. You're gonna wanna wait about 2 hours before you serve it to allow the cheesecake to thaw completely. And at this point, it's just going to germinate. It is going to taste amazing. It is going to be one of the best cakes you ever eat. It is perfect for spring. It is perfect throughout all of summer. My only complaint about this cake right here that you see is that my strawberries weren't red. You make this later in the summer, your strawberries are gonna be so red, so beautiful. This is such a beautiful cake, and you are going to love it, I promise.